Ladies and gentlemen, please will you welcome onto the stage, Amstell! Hello. Thank you. How are you? Are you okay? You all right? Well, this is fun, isn't it? This is sort of a fun thing to be doing. It's fun, right? I'm quite lonely. Let's start with that. Nothing can be done about it, people of Dublin. Nothing can be done. I bought a new flat about 2 years ago. In this flat, in the bathroom, there are 2 sinks. I thought that would bring me some joy. It is a constant reminder. And so what I've had to do, this is what I'm doing now in my life. I'm actually doing this. I'm using both sinks. I now, every day, brush my teeth in the left sink, and in the right one, mainly cry. I think the problem comes from the inability to just be purely in the moment without fear. I think we're all stuck in the past and looking to the future, and it's in the moment where true joy exists. It's in the moment where love can occur. It's only in the moment where you can be fully at one with the universe. I was in Paris recently with a new group of people, one of which was quite a sort of kooky, interesting girl. Although in hindsight, not that interesting. I always get fooled. I was thinking, oh, she seems fascinating. Is she, Simon? Or does she just have short hair? Completely fascinated. Ended up thinking, oh, I'll talk to her for the rest of my life. Bored after 10 minutes. You should grow your hair and stop misleading people. So she suggests at about 3 in the morning that we all run up the Champs-Élysées to the Arc de Triomphe. And I guess telling you about that now sounds sort of exciting and fun, but at the time I just thought, well, why would we do that? And then what's the point? And then when we get there, then what will we do with our lives? And I'm sort of analysing what the point of it is, and we live that way, and it seems a long way to go. And everyone else is just not analysing, they're just running, and I'm running as well because of the peer pressure, because I'm fun. And we're all running, and everyone else, I think, is just at one with the moment, at one with joy, at one with the universe, and I'm there, as I'm running, thinking, well, this will probably make a good memory. Which is living in the future, discussing the past with someone who, if they asked you, oh, what does it feel like? I don't know, I was thinking about what I'd say to you. I think it comes from childhood. When you're a child, you're free, you're purely in the moment. You're not worried. It doesn't even occur to you what other people might think of you. You don't analyse every moment. You just live moment to moment. And then something happens where you realise you have to think before you act. We get taught we have to think before we act. When I was 15, and this happened when I was 15, but I think it's too odd a story if I was 15, so I think it's better if we say I was 11. I was in my grandparents' house, and I used to have quite a good relationship with my grandma. She used to really validate me in my life. I used to do little drawings and doodles, and she'd say, oh, that's nice. I'd do another drawing. Oh, that's nice. Another drawing. Oh, that's nice. And at one point, I distrusted the consistency of her reviews. So did a deliberately bad drawing to see what she would say. She said, oh, that's nice. And I thought, I can't deal with this inauthentic sycophant. So one day, and I know now that I did this because I wanted to do something where she couldn't validate it, where she couldn't say, oh, that's nice. But when I did it, it was purely unconscious. It was purely in the moment. One day, I ran up to my grandma and I mooned my grandma. But I was only 11. I'm just 11. It wasn't even like a cheeky, playful little moon and run away, funny. It was a violent bend over. Here's my arsehole, Grandma. And apparently a bit of balls as well. A little bit of balls. She didn't say, "Oh, that's nice." Although I think she wanted to, because she's generous and encouraging. She just couldn't quite get there with my arsehole in her face. She ended up saying, "Oh, okay." Still encouraging, still a sort of, "Oh, I see what you were going for." So that's why I can't enjoy Paris. I did fall in love about 5 years ago. Fell in love 5 years ago, but with somebody I invented, which isn't ideal. And he was based on somebody who existed, but because I had such low self-esteem, I took every negative attribute I felt about myself, converted those into positive attributes, and projected those onto him. Thus, he would heal me and complete me in my life. Initially, I just liked him because he was really thin. I really liked that. Like, thinner than me, ill thin. I don't know why I like that. I just like the idea I could go on a date with someone, and it could be their last date. A lot of it is narcissism, really. I realised my type is me, but better. Which I think is okay. I just need to find somebody who wants himself, but much, much worse. I went to see him in this play that he was in, and he was really vulnerable on stage, and I really like... Vulnerability to me is quite sexually appealing. I don't know if you... Like, you know, there are people who are more like, "Well, we know what we're doing, we've done it before, we'll do it again, everything's fine." To me, it's much more sexy if someone's a bit more, "Oh, I feel faint," you know? It's hot, right? So... I went to see this play on the press night so I could perhaps meet him afterwards, and weeks had been building up to this moment, and all I could manage when I saw him at the party was a kind of polite nod, and I don't know if he saw it, he didn't nod back, and then I felt awkward about approaching him at all, and an hour went past and I couldn't approach him, and then I saw him leave the theatre, his rucksack on his back, his little beanie hat on his head, and as he got further and further away, it became harder and harder to move, and he was gone. 3 weeks go by of sadness, pain, regret. I've turned him into the only person I can possibly be with in my life. A lot of it was ego. I just felt like he was going to become a great actor. He could make people cry, and I could become a great comedian and make people laugh. And if we were together, we could be like a two-man Robin Williams. All the talent of Robin Williams, but in two separate thin men. I didn't know how I was going to meet him again. And then I was in a shop in Covent Garden that sells vintage clothing, and he was there, in the shop. I felt in that moment that God had brought us together. I don't feel that now so much, because it feels like the thought of a deluded moron. And I don't want to attack religious people who may be here this evening. It feels like a sort of unkind thing to do, to attack religious people, and it feels, you know, it feels too easy, and like the battle's already been won, and... No, but really, it just feels rude. Like, if you're at a party and someone says, you know, you get into a conversation, someone says, "Oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew," it's very rude there to say, "Oh, how ridiculous." I feel at this point we have to treat people with kindness and love and respect in the same way you treat a child running around a party saying, "I'm a helicopter." Say, "Good for you, we're all having fun, I'm a choo-choo train." I'm not an atheist. I'm a big fan of Jesus Christ. There's nobody more thin or vulnerable than Jesus Christ. And he's bleeding as well. It's very clever of them. But I'm not an atheist for this reason. This is the main reason I'm not an atheist. I think I'm God a bit, and here's why. And that's the sort of thing I can say here, but I can't really say at a dinner party, because people will say, well, why have you got hummus on your chin? Because it's sort of seemingly arrogant and blasphemous. I don't think it's blasphemous. Speaking as God, I'm not offended. But I feel that actor was in that shop at the same time as me. And I don't believe in coincidence. I think coincidence is a word we invented for something that we don't quite understand yet. I read a book called Illusions, Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah. On the cover of this book is a blue feather, because the character/author of this book believes in the philosophy, thinking makes it so. We create our own reality. He tests this by visualizing a blue feather in his fingers. He believes, like Buddhists, that everything has already been achieved. Time is an illusion. So if he feels he has the blue feather already, it will come to him, because there's nothing opposing that idea. Later in the book, the blue feather appears. I test this myself with a white feather. I felt I had the white feather in my fingers. Not that I needed the white feather or desired the white feather. It had already been achieved. Later, I was at a picnic. I put my hand in a packet of crisps, which is something I wouldn't normally do. I pulled out a crisp with a white feather on, which is disgusting. But there he was in the shop. And I don't know how you feel. Maybe you think, well, he walked into that shop at the same time as you with his own legs. No, I put him in that shop with my God mind. Now, some people will say, well, you know, if we do create our own reality, what about the Holocaust? What about victims of child abuse? Did they create that in their worlds? And the thing you have to understand about that is... For whatever reason, he was in that shop. I knew I had to approach him, because this was a moment, and I couldn't have any more regret. I also knew I couldn't go up to him with my personality. I don't know if you can tell fully from the tone of my voice. This is not a voice that lends itself to getting sex or relationships. What you need is a less anxious, a cooler voice. Like, I don't know why there's still so much anxiety in my life. The other day, a guy approached me, and I wasn't sure if I'd met him before or not. And in the panic of the moment, I just said, I've got that jumper. And I didn't. I went out with someone for quite a while who wasn't that keen on that aspect of my personality. And we were in a supermarket together, and a friend of his, who I hadn't met before, approached us. And because I hadn't met this guy before, I got instantly nervous. The friend says, oh, what are you up to? And I say, oh, a bit of shopping. We've got a pineapple. An hour passes, and then the boyfriend says to me, what's wrong with you? Why'd you always have to try to be so funny all the time? I said, well, it wasn't funny, it was factual. There was a part, he says, you deliberately chose the most humorous objects in the trolley. Well, I'm gifted. So awkward all the time, a ridiculous way to be. But there's this feeling of, even though I believe that we're all one, I still feel like a constant detachment, even with people I'm close to. Like my mum and I have got a good relationship, but there's a detachment, there's an inauthenticity to every conversation. I feel like I should be able to tell her anything, but there's a sort of awkwardness to it on the phone. And I think it's because I came out of her vagina. And that's sort of always there, you know? Oh, have you done your council tax, Simon? Mum, I came out of your vagina. Let's not pretend that's a normal thing to have happened. I came out of your vagina, I sucked in your tits. You want to talk about tax? With my grandma as well, who I got on with quite well, still an awkwardness. I think it's because my mum came out of her, I came out of my mum. It's like a Russian doll awkwardness. I didn't want to be that person anymore. I didn't want to be that guy in front of this actor. In my ideal world, I would have been able to go up to him and just say, hey, How are you? I saw your play the other week. It was great. Oh, thank you. Oh, of course. I remember the nod. Why are you crying? I've got too many sinks. I don't know why, but I feel I need to ask you if you'd like to go and get some coffee with me or a juice or something, and I don't know, maybe if that works out, we could move to the country together. Okay, well, let me just purchase this effortlessly cool cardigan and we can talk to an estate agent. Here's what actually happened. Because of my personality, I saw him there, he hadn't seen me yet. It was about a metre away from me, there, that thin. And what I thought, for some reason, what I thought would be really cool and seductive would be to just stand in the middle of the shop and shout his full name. He turned round, alarmed. I could see the terror in his eyes, but because I'd started at a certain volume, I thought it'd be too odd to get any quieter. So I'm then just shouting at him about the good reviews that this play has had, and he's going, oh, I don't really read reviews, and he's all timid and vulnerable, which is why I love him. And I think the difference between us, because I think we were both quite shy as children. I think I did a lot of research on him. But he retained that shyness, and it makes him beautiful and sensitive, and I decided shyness was something to be overcome, and I think it's in our training. He went to a really good acting school in London where he was taught to nourish his sensitivity, to nurture his vulnerability, and that's what makes him a great actor. I went to a Saturday morning stage school in Essex where we were taught that whether we were singing, dancing or acting, just do it loud. So I didn't become good at any of those things, but when I danced, people heard. So I'm there still shouting at him. And I realise I've got to make some sort of lasting connection with him. And I ask, it occurs to me to ask, you must be very busy at the moment, but do you have a night off? He says, I have Monday nights off. I know of a very cool club night that happens on Mondays. It's very cool to me because it's such a contrast to the Essex nightclub I went to for 3 years in Romford. 3 years between the ages of 18 and 21. 3 years every Saturday night in Romford. 3 years every Saturday night in Romford. 3 years. Because nobody told me that London was close. And you had to wear black trousers to get in, black shoes, an untucked shirt. And I don't like it when the dress code is basic dick. I think it's restricting. One time, I don't know if I was being rebellious or if I just thought it would be okay, I wore black trainers. I thought that would be all right. And the bouncer looked at me and said, you can't come in like that. You like come from a gym. Which gym do I look like I've come from? He's such a basic human being. To him, there's only 2 forms of dress, club and gym. I remember the last time I went there, I think I was 21, and I threw up. I used to throw up there quite a lot, because I used to drink a lot, because I wasn't happy. I don't want to judge you if you're drinking tonight, but you know it's because you're not happy, right? You know. We'll have a... Oh, no, we're all right. We'll have a couple of drinks and then pay for laughter. We're fine. I was trying to get to the toilet and I didn't make it. I threw up on the dance floor. I looked at what I'd done and I was pleased. I thought, that's what you deserve. That should be your logo. But now I was in London talking to this actor and I suggested this wonderful avant-garde club on a Monday night, which he hadn't heard of, which meant that I could say, well, I'll email you the details. That casual. He said, OK, I then had his email address. He gave me his email address. I triumphed over this fear of rejection, this fear of being in the moment. I had his email address. And then this final moment where we seemed to level out. Up to now, I'd been his crazed, desperate fan. And then, just as I was leaving, he said, "Oh, do I know you from something?" And I said in as quiet and modest a way as possible, I sort of do this small pop show on Channel 4, but it's on very early in the morning, you probably haven't seen it. Thinking that he might say, "Of course, you're really funny, you're really funny, you're really funny." Not, "Oh, OK," in the same tone as my grandma when I showed her my arsehole. But I had his email address. I went home and I composed the most beautiful, funny little email. 6 friends confirmed it was a beautiful, funny email. I pressed send, and this is very much the end of this story. He never emailed back. Thank you. Ideally, in this situation, laughter is better than pity, but you're quite right. It's not a funny ending, is it? It's not funny. He didn't email back even something negative that I could do something with. He just indifferent. Not funny, is it? It's not funny. So not only did he ruin my life for 5 years, he's ruined this. Fucking Martin Clunes. It's my fault for chasing this fantasy of this quiet, mysterious actor type. That's what I've always gone for, some sort of... And I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why I kept going for the same sort of weird, vulnerable, quiet person. And then I realised it comes directly from being about 15 years old and watching the teen drama My So-Called Life, starring Jared Leto as Jordan Catalano. You may whoop and cheer, but that programme has left me damaged. Everyone I've ever gone for has been some version of Jordan Catalano. I watched the DVD to see what I was to do about this, and I wanted to watch the DVD to see, what it was about this character, and I figured it was these 3 things. Number 1, he has about 4 lines in every episode. Number 2, he has long hair that sometimes falls over an eye. And he'll tuck it behind his ear. Which is amazing, isn't it? It's just amazing. And the 3rd thing is that his main character trait is that he is dyslexic. And that's all I've ever wanted. A near mute with long hair and learning difficulties. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. I don't want to offend anyone. If that describes you in any way, I'd like to meet you. Recently, I went to see a play in which there was an actor that I fancied, because if you don't seek some therapy, life repeats. This time I was slightly better connected. I knew the playwright. We went to eat after the play. I was sat next to the actor that I fancied. I was talking to him about some of the things that we've been discussing tonight, that thinking makes it so that we can create our own reality. And even if you don't buy into that in any sort of spiritual sense, you can still see that we live in a culture where you can order stuff online and it comes within the next day or 2. We live like that now. And so it's frustrating to not be able to order a specific human being from the universe and have them come towards you. He says, "Well, what do you want? Who do you want?" I say, and I hadn't thought about this for a while, I say, "I want Jared Leto." He then says, in that moment, "I just did a film with Jared Leto where I played the younger version of his character." I didn't know what to do with that. I'd only just ordered him. He then says, out of his mouth, "Do you want to see a sex scene I did as the young Jared Leto?" I say, yes. He pulls out his iPhone, shows me himself having sex as Jared Leto with long hair and naked, and I say, oh, that's nice. And it's so close to the fantasy, I don't know what to do. That is the root fantasy. That's the young Jared Leto. It's even closer to the fantasy than the actual Jared Leto in real life now, who, oddly, I did meet about 3 years ago in Thailand at a full moon party. I didn't realise it was him. I thought it was just someone who looked like him. So I went up to him and said, you look a lot like Jared Leto. Do you know who Jared Leto is? He said, I am Jared Leto. I wasn't ready for that. So all I could manage to say was, your beauty in Requiem for a Dream detracted from the narrative. He thanked me and walked away. This was so close to the fantasy. And also there was, of course, the fear of rejection, as there always is. I felt like there was a flirty vibe between us, but I wasn't sure, and I have to be sure. When I was running up the Champs-Élysées with the people in Paris, one of them asked if he can come back to my hotel room that night, because he said the Metros were going to be able to get him back to his hotel. I knew he was sort of making that up, but I didn't know. I knew he liked me a bit, but I didn't know. Got to the point where we're in my hotel room, both under the covers, half naked, and I'm still going, my God, but what is this? What is this? I don't know what this is. What is this? What is this? My penis in his mouth, but is he joking? It was too close to the fantasy, there was the fear of rejection, I didn't know what to do. So I did what I always do. I ignored him completely, became friends with somebody he knows quite well, and now every Sunday, she is teaching me piano. It was too close to the fantasy, it was too much for me. I should have remembered what my mum used to say about how you can be or do anything you want in this life, because everyone you see on TV or on film, they all shit. She used to say that a lot. She would point at the television and say, shit comes out of them. You'll be a star. I feel like we're all damaged in a way, right? We're all sort of damaged. You're damaged, right? We're all damaged. You look quite damaged. You damaged? A little bit, yeah. And I don't mind that so much. I feel like that's where the good stuff comes from. The only reason comedy exists is because we have tragedy. That's the way it works. Tragedy plus time equals comedy. Although, that's not the... I realise what the formula really should be is tragedy plus time plus joke. You can't just be involved in horrific tragedy and wait. And I feel special in some way if I feel broken. If I'm broken, there's a journey to be healed. There's a journey to be fixed. I feel like I'm an interesting, unique human being. In the meaninglessness of it all, I feel unique, I feel special. I like that I've got an osteopath appointment once a month where I go because I've got bad posture, something happened in my past, and I guess this man is healing me each month, bringing me some sort of neutral state, some pure neutral state. And I asked him, because he's quite a sensitive, sweet man, why did I end up with bad posture? Is it because when I was a kid I was quite shy? I ended up trying to make myself invisible from the other children, ended up all hunched over and scared. And even though what I do now is extrovert, still inside I'm the same scared, crying child. I said, what's wrong with me? Why would that happen to me? What's wrong with me? And he said, you have very tight hamstrings. Yeah, but isn't it more that I'm a genius recluse? Isn't that the... No, the tendons behind your knees are quite restricted. Yeah, but isn't that just the physical manifestation of a tortured soul? No, it's your legs. Similarly, I got ill a few weeks ago, and this happened the day before. I've got a cat. Obviously, I've got a cat. I really thought the cat would end my loneliness. It has only become a mascot for my loneliness. So if anyone does come round, they go, oh, you've got a cat, you're quite lonely. What's he called? Solitude. I woke up and the cat had peed on my bed. Because I was still half asleep, I ended up putting my hand in the cat's pee. I then went to grab the cat to put its head in its pee. Not as an act of revenge, my mum had just told me that's how you teach it not to do it again. It doesn't work, it doesn't remember the great moral lesson of Tuesday. It just ends up with a head covered in its own pee, wandering around, wondering how that could have happened. In the process of grabbing the cat scratched my hand, the same hand where the pee was. There was then some blood coming out of my hand, and maybe some pee getting into my bloodstream. And I thought, I've got cat AIDS. I tried not to think that, because I believe that thinking makes it so. I woke up the next morning and I couldn't stop vomiting into my toilet. So violent was the vomit coming out of me. It was going into my toilet, it was all around the toilet as well, sort of splattering all over the floor. My cat came, put my head in the vomit. I felt so weak and thin and pale. I saw myself in the mirror. I thought, he's hot. On the way to the doctor, I wondered, should I mention what happened with the cat? I felt a bit embarrassed about it, but I thought it could be relevant. It could be relevant to what's happened this morning. I got there, I told her about the vomiting, and I said, I don't know if this is anything, but my cat yesterday peed on my bed, someone got my hand, and there was some blood. I said, I don't know, I've heard about cat AIDS. She looked at me in a way that I thought doctors were trained not to look at patients. Well, no, there's no way you could have cat AIDS. You're not a cat. You all right? You having fun? You're quite thin, aren't you? What's your name? Colin. Okay. Wait, Colin? Caitlin? Go on, one more. I still don't know what his name is. Was it Connor? Cahill. Cohil. Oh yeah, laugh at the idiot Englishman, yeah. Yeah. Trying my best, I'm being polite. Yeah, go on, spell it, yeah. Hang on, I'm speaking to Cahill. He could do it, even though he may have some dyslexia issues. Let's hope so. Cathal. It's pretty fucked up, huh? I'm Simon. Well, I think that went quite well, don't you? Oh, God. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, yeah. I remember. I bloody remember. I can do this. The main problem is that we feel like we're living into the future. Really what we're doing is living into the past. We're constantly repeating moments from the past, hoping for better endings. Whenever I'm with my family, I feel like if I can just heal the past, maybe then I can live in possibility. Maybe then the future could be a blank page where anything could happen. Until that point, I feel like I'm going to repeat moments from the past. It was recently my grandpa's birthday party, his 70th birthday party at this restaurant in Essex. Everyone was there, apart from my brother's girlfriend, who he's been with for about 4 years. She was not there on account of a couple of the family members having a problem with her not being a Jew. We mustn't judge them for this. This is just because it's just because they personally have a very strong belief in racism. So... and that's their belief. What can you do? There's nothing you can do. You're very lucky in Ireland. Don't suppose you've ever had any sort of religious conflict or anything, you know. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. You can't imagine Dublin. That's their belief. And you know, we mustn't judge them because they live in Essex, where there's not much to do, and so there's a lot more time for racism. I live in London now. God, if I had the time, but... every day I'm walking through Oxford Street, I see people from ethnic minorities think, oh, I should do something, but I'm so busy, you know. And you know, it's unfair of me to just be on this stage attacking them. They have their perspective. They were just trying to protect their children. They saw it from their perspective. It was a bad example to their children because they could end up marrying Gentiles. Then their children's children wouldn't be Jewish. Then they wouldn't be able to go to a Jewish school. And then where would they learn paranoia? So... and nobody's ever caused a drama about this in the family. We just sort of try to keep the peace and we try not to say anything about it because it's genuinely believed in this family that when my mum got divorced, which was quite a drama, it was the direct reason for my grandpa becoming diabetic. So no one's allowed to say anything. So they say these sort of awful, offensive things and I'm sat there going, oh my God, if this was being televised, people would boo you. And then... near the end of the dinner, because I've been on a few courses to try and make my life happier, I say to these members of my family, in a sort of sweet and polite a way as possible, isn't it a shame that my brother couldn't bring his girlfriend tonight? It's sort of a shame, isn't it? Sort of a shame. And they get quite defensive, of course, and say, well, why isn't she here? We thought she would be here. Why isn't she here? And I say, oh, isn't it, I don't know, isn't it because of that time that you said she can't be here? And I ask, just explain to me, why is the belief more important than the feelings of a human being? And it's so sad, because she's a brunette, she could pass. And then my brother comes over and just starts swearing at them, and it becomes a bit intense. And I say, oh no, it's all right, calm down, I've been on a course. And my grandpa, this is just the point where the cake is supposed to come, we should be singing happy birthday, and now my grandpa is crying, partly because of the drama that I've created, and partly because he can't eat the cake. And, yeah, it's a tricky business. The whole thing's a tricky business. It is then suggested that we all go back to my mum's house and resolve this. And I feel very awkward about the whole thing, because we don't have drama in this family, and now I've created one and I've got to resolve it. We've got to have this whole debate about who's right and who's wrong. And I used to, as a child, I was quite into debate and opinions, and now I just feel like debate and politics is the opposite of truth, the opposite of beauty, the opposite of joy. When I was younger, I went to see the Vanessa Feltz talk show being filmed. There's nothing we can do. It happened. It happened. The subject up for debate that day was, should I murder my husband? At the beginning of the show, the floor manager told us that the best opinion today will win a bottle of champagne. So there's everything to play for. Should she or shouldn't she murder her husband? 20 minutes go by and people say some very interesting things. And I, at about 14 years old, stand up and say, I think you shouldn't murder your husband because you could go to prison. And I won a bottle of champagne. And whether it's a lowbrow, stupid daytime TV show debate like that or a highbrow question time political debate, it's the same inane, nonsensical, cyclical, boring topics. And we go round and round in circles debating the same things over and over again. Somehow we take out logic and prior knowledge from our collective minds. And I think it's quite similar to what happened to me when I did magic mushrooms a few years ago. Somehow I was able to say to my friend on mushrooms, and I think it's this sort of conversation that we're all constantly having that stops us from progressing at the speed that we perhaps could. Isn't it odd how when you say to someone, oh, do you want to meet up for some dinner next Thursday? The dinner is a lie. What you're really saying is, it'd be nice to meet up with you. I haven't seen you for a while. Why do we have to have this dinner cover? How do you know how hungry you're going to be on Thursday? why can't we just say it'd be nice to meet up with you, and there should be a place where you can just meet, the meeting place, an indoor place where you walk in, you sit down, there's nothing, just chairs, and you sit down and you look at each other and you meet, and it's truthful, it's authentic, it's beautiful. And then I thought, after about half an hour there, you could get a bit hungry. And I invented the restaurant. So I didn't want to have this debate with my family, who was right and who was wrong. It's a very difficult thing. We have to continue to debate things because there is no truth, there's only perspective. And their perspective was that it was a terrible misunderstanding, and the one time they did meet her, she hadn't said hello to them. And I had to explain that she was the shy new guest coming into this family. We are hosting her. We have to say hello first. That's how it works. I don't know if I only know that from presenting TV shows where you start with, hello and welcome to the show. You don't stare at the audience. I had to explain it to them like they were children. I said, why can't we learn from Lumiere, the candlestick holder from Beauty and the Beast, who sang, be our guest, not is she a Jew? But this is unfair because I realised in everything that I was saying, what was underneath my words was essentially, why can't you just be less judgmental and more like me, which is judgmental? And arrogant to try and change somebody else's perspective just so that the world can seem better for you. It's important that we have these contrasts in life. Nothing ever got created from things being the same. It's from the contrast in life that anything happens. I realised in the end that all I could do, I couldn't change them. All I could do was change my perspective on them and then move on with my life. All you can really do in your life is change yourself. And that's hard enough. I really wanted to change myself a lot last year because I felt I wasn't getting enough sex. And that's a fun thing to do. It's a shame not to have more of it. And the reason I wasn't achieving the getting of more sex was because I would see somebody at a party that I really liked, and I'd think, gosh, well, he seems just about perfect. Like, who knows what could happen? I could end up spending the rest of my life with him. And what I would do every time to woo him, to pursue him, to make him see that I was the one for him, is I would go home and hope that I saw him again. Because for me, to go up to someone and say, hello, what's your name? Perfectly lovely question. Hello, what's your name? Nothing wrong with that question. Hello, what's your name? It's a delightful, curious question. But to me, it would definitely come out like, hello, what's your name? Also, I developed a paranoia for talking to anyone because I felt like if the chat-up didn't go well, they would then have a story to tell their friends about. This came from being at the Edinburgh Comedy Festival and somebody coming up to me and reminding me of a gig that we'd done together. I remember the gig. I went on a few dates with a poet who was on that show, and he said, yes, that's my friend. And he said that in a kind of smug way, like he knew something about me. And I said, do you know something about me? And he said, yes. He then told me that his friend had told him that when we were having sex and his friend climaxed, I said, well done. I think it's because it took him a while. It's not my catchphrase. So I couldn't talk to people. And then I saw the film Waking Life. I don't know if you've seen it, but one line stood out for me. Actual self-awareness is the knowledge that you are a character in someone else's dream. I love this idea that it could all be a dream, and it's somebody else's dream. It makes everything so silly. There's no need to fear anything, no need to feel anxious about anything. It's all a dream. And if you're playing a character and that character isn't serving you, that shy, anxious character who can't talk to people, let go of the character. Become a different character. I was out with a friend of mine walking through the streets of North London on a Sunday afternoon a few months ago. And in the time that we were together, he'd got the phone numbers of about 4 different girls. His thing is he's able to go up to girls and say, hello, what's your name? They exchange phone numbers, and then later they have sex. That's a better system than mine. I said, you've got to do this for me. He then spots this guy that I've been looking at, and before I can run away scared of what might occur, he just saunters up to this guy and says, "Hello, young man. You look like a fun chap. What are you up to today in your life?" And this young student guy says, I'm meeting some friends in the park. And my friend says, "Well, we must join you." And for some reason, this guy doesn't say, "Why?" I think it's because my friend said, "We must." And so he just went, "Oh, well, if you're in charge of the world, okay." Because that's what my friend's putting out there. His character is he can grab someone from the universe, throw them in his hot tub, and fuck them. We're now all sat in this park with these people, and everyone's acting very nonchalant, like it's a normal thing to have happened. But at least in my head, I'm screaming, but we're all strangers. I try to chat up the one that I like. I say, "You look like the cool one in the group." Because I don't know how to talk to humans. The only way I can cope, it seems, is if I imagine I'm conducting a TV interview. "Oh, well, you're the cool one, and who dresses you, and thank you for coming in today, and now Lady Gaga." Who I don't trust. So my friend then rescues me from my character and says, "Why don't you two exchange phone numbers now? We must move on with our lives." So we do exchange phone numbers, because he's told us to. We walk away, and I acknowledge that what has happened has been quite special. Generally in life, we feel we're in control, but we're just like ants wandering around, hoping to avoid bumping into each other, as humans hoping to avoid doing anything that might embarrass us. And this was a moment of grabbing a moment from the universe without any fear. We're not in control of our lives. You're not in control of your lives. I'm aware that half of the people in here are only in here because the person next to you likes me. Maybe more than half, maybe. And I'm not in control of my life, even being here tonight. It's just that something happened in my childhood where there was a moment of fear. I responded with something funny, and that worked. So I carried on with that, and now I'm here talking to you into a microphone, which I don't need. Just because it gives the impression I'm definitely a stand-up comedian. Otherwise, I'm just a man standing. And unless you grab these moments, life just is cyclical and it is repetitive. Do you know what I was thinking about when I was in the toilet the other morning? Again? It's always the same, isn't it? Once, about 6 years ago, I had a green shit. Once. And it looked at me as if to say, perhaps everything will be different now. Wasn't. Goatee beard, huh? You think that's going to help? So, I don't know, you think you shave that bit and we're all still going to die. So I asked my friend, I said, "What do you want me to do now? Should I text him next week and see what he's up to?" He said, "No, you don't, just text him now and see what he's doing tonight." I said, "This is a bit keen, we just walked away. Shouldn't I play hard to get a bit?" He said, "No, you don't play hard to get, you just pick someone up in a park." And he was right, this stupid game based on fear that we play, this hard-to-get game, we don't play it in any other area of our lives. You're in a supermarket and you think, "I quite fancy potato." You don't go, "Oh, I'd best to avoid eye contact." You grab the potato, you bloody eat it. The only difference between a potato and a human being is there's a fear of rejection. That's not the only difference. Everything's a choice between fear and love. We may as well choose love, because death is coming. Death is coming. Death is coming. That's my catchphrase. So I texted him there and then, because death is coming. And he was free that night. He was free that night. We were then going on this date that night. We'd met that day. We're going on this date that night. I feel alive. I feel like I'm living some sort of dream-like existence. My friend then gives me tips on how to have sex with him that evening, because that is what this is about. This is about grabbing this moment from the universe without any judgment, without fear. We still judge ourselves on sex, and we add so much meaning to it as we add meaning to everything in our lives. Sex can just be fun. It can just be fun. It can just be fun. No one ever says, oh, you're playing all that tennis. Where's it leading? Did you enjoy your tennis game? Well, it was meaningless, wasn't it? It was just... It's joyful. His tips were, don't talk about the past, don't discuss the future, this is just about this moment. Just keep saying the words, spontaneous and adventure. Spontaneous, adventure. Aren't we spontaneous? What an adventure we've been on today. We met today and we spontaneously decided to be here right now. What an adventure it has been. What an adventure it could continue to be. Aren't you spontaneous? Aren't I spontaneous? When was the last time you did something spontaneous? We're so adventurous. What an adventure this is. It worked. He taught me two things that day. One, some confidence, because why be timid? Death is coming. And two, hypnosis. I feel like now we can just have anything we want in our lives, and the only thing to fear is death, and that's happening anyway. The real problem I find is that we're getting older, and we have to be here for that. I turned 30 last year, and it was a bit of a crisis leading up to it, culminating in this. I was at the theatre, and I saw somebody who turned out to be 18. Okay, so he was 18. All right, he was 18, but he was so thin. And he was with a woman who turned out to be his mother. But she, it turned out, was a fan of mine. So that's good. She likes my work. I like her son. Great. Also, I've worked really hard since about the age of 14 to get to wherever the hell I am today. So if she's taken any enjoyment from my work, I think I've earned her child. We get talking, and they're delightfully uber middle class. And I'm from Essex, and this feels like a moment where I've arrived. We're talking about the play, we're talking about poetry, we're having a wonderful time. I don't like to caricature because it feels crude and untrue. I wouldn't say this if it wasn't the case. He is speaking in that stereotypical way we imagine posh people speak, like that sort of... like that. He's actually speaking like that. Like there's no need for him to be able to speak, like his mouth is full of pound coins. I don't know what it is. But I'm really having a lovely time with both of them. And then after the play, I meet up with just him outside the theatre. We're sat on the steps of this theatre. It's about 11:30 in the evening. There's a frisson between us. There's romance in the air. And then his mother comes around the corner. And I feel awkward. I think, oh gosh, the mother must love him and is protective of him. And she just says to him, OK, goodbye, darling. See you later. Leaves me with her son. So I thought, oh, she's given him to me. So I took him. He actually took me to this restaurant that he knew. It was his area, and we went to this late-night restaurant. We spoke for 2 hours, and he was actually much more mature than you'd imagine for 18, and much more intelligent than you'd imagine for 18, and all those other things that people like me say. We started meeting up for these kind of dates. They weren't defined as such, but they were essentially dates, and eventually I invited him back to my flat. I felt strange and torn about inviting him. I wasn't sure if it'd be a bit too much for him, and I'm not very good at making the first move. Like, in terms of the first kiss, I'm not very good at that, and I thought I would have to, because I'm the responsible adult here. And then we were sat for like 3 hours on my sofa just talking and talking, and I couldn't quite make the move. I felt just awkward about it. I wasn't sure what... And it was hard for him as well, because he's straight, so it's difficult. But everything is seemingly leading towards this kiss. We're edging close to each other subtly on the sofa. And at one point I realised I had to kiss him because I found myself fiddling with his hair. And I thought, well, I've got to do the kiss now because that's a precursor to a kiss. If you don't then do the kiss, you're just a weirdo who likes hair. Well, it's been lovely touching your hair this evening. Let yourself out. So I leaned in and I kissed him on the lips and said, "I've just kissed you on the lips. Is that okay?" And he said, "Oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine." And in that moment, I won £7. I leaned in again. I kissed him again. I said, "I've just kissed you on the lips again," because kids love repetition. But really, we were having a laugh about it ourselves. Like, I kept sort of, I tried to make it fun, and I was making him laugh. He really liked, I kept doing, "Who is it? It's me." He loved that. Loved it. And actually, it was a really lovely experience for both of us. Don't regret any of it. It was like a wonderful, beautiful, sensual evening. And I don't feel any shame or regret about it. If there's one thing that makes me feel slightly odd about it. And it is that he did describe what we had done afterwards as rumbly-tumbly. He was obviously a bit nervous at first, but in the end, lovely bit of rumbly-tumbly. Now, look, it's not ideal being with an 18-year-old. There's nothing we can do about the fact that he was 18. There's nothing we can do about the fact if I met him 5 weeks before that, he would have been 17. Nothing we can do, nothing the police can do, no one can do anything. And I realise now that as well as it being a worry about getting older, it was also an attempt to heal the past. When I was 18, at that stage, it seemed impossible to be with another 18-year-old. So this was a moment of trying to heal that broken moment from the past. The great lesson in all of this came a few months ago. I had received a big bill for something to do with my flat, and it was really frustrating, and it felt like an injustice. It was like this just stupid, boring bill, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I was really annoyed by it, and then I got in this minicab and started telling the cab driver about it. He said to me, "Well, is there anything you can do about this bill?" And I said, "No, there's nothing I can do. It's a real injustice." And he said, "Acceptance." "What do you mean, whispering wise cab driver?" And he explained so absurdly simply that if there's nothing you can do about something, then you do nothing. And in that moment, the feeling of injustice, the frustration, it was lifted, it was gone, there was nothing to do. I realised I'd made it up. I'd made it up that it was an injustice. I'd made up the frustration. It was all a story. And it's the same with the past. You can't change the past. There's no need to heal it. It's only a story that you've created. All you can do is let go of the story. You can't change yourself. All you can do is let go of the story of who you are. Let go of the character that you've created from fear. And you can't change other people. All you can do is let go of your limited perspective of them. I really tried hard with my family on that stupid debate about my brother and his girlfriend, but they stuck with their perception, as they have a right to do. They said, "It's not our fault, it's your mother. She would rather that he was with a Jewish girl." And my mum said, "No, that's not what I've said. What I've said is in an ideal world he would be, but I'm happy that he's happy." Which sounds more positive, but she's creating a whole other world there, whereas with someone else. So I said, we've got to let go of this idea of an ideal world. The world is how you perceive it. It's ideal if you want it to be ideal. And they're in love. Surely love is the ideal. And I won a bottle of champagne. Thank you very much for coming.